Well, hello everybody. I'm live. For about 2 seconds there, I kind of forgot how to turn on my camera. I'm like, how do I do this? Oh my gosh. So I'm just gonna blabber for a minute or here too, and then we'll get started. First of all, how was your week this week, everybody? And I'm gonna adjust the camera here real quick. How was your week? For those of you who are in the chat, I'd like to hear how it went for you. This was an interesting week for the channel. We had a lot of interesting interviews. Actually, it started off today at 9 a.m. Eastern Time tape with Reverend Will Kritzman, who's the pastor of the West End Church in Manhattan, New York, which will be sharing space with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and had a really fascinating conversation. But what started off my morning is I get a message from Rebecca Biblioteca at 4:36 in the morning. And the whole reason why we were taping at 9 o'clock is because Rebecca is working her job, and it's really busy this time of year where she's at. And she said I could do 7 a.m. Mountain Time. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to do 9 a.m. So here we are. And then I get this message, and she's like, I got the flu. So everybody, keep your prayers out for Rebecca Biblioteca. She's a bit under the weather right now, and we do appreciate her very much. And so she wasn't able to participate in the interview. But it's interesting because we will be releasing it this weekend. So make sure you like and subscribe. And from a Roman Great Week, they excited for the topic and videos to come. Yeah, we're working on a lot of different things, folks. Of course, this channel is not afraid to get involved in all different aspects of the restoration, whether it's history, it's scholarship, it's pop culture, it's breaking news. I mean, literally, we've broken some of the major news stories in this field over the course of the last few weeks. And I honestly feel that this story about with this Will Kritzman and his West End Church and becoming roommates, as he likes to call it, with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is really a fascinating thing. And I'm going to talk about that. But now that we're in for about a couple minutes now, I just want to welcome everybody. I know sometimes people say they operate on Mormon time, so they're going on a few minutes late. So I always like to blabber a little bit. This is what I'm talking about. Your headline makes it sound like a gay pastor is an LDS temple giving a sermon. Oh, Sean, interesting. Yeah, you've been criticizing me all day today. No, it's really a fascinating story, and I want to talk about it. And so welcome, everybody, to Mormon Book Reviews live on Friday night. Okay, so I just wanted to say, first of all, I've been getting really, again, folks, 90+% of the comments we get are very positive. What's so fascinating was when I posted my interview with Nick Jones last week, I was really wondering, the ex-bishop who resigned, I was really wondering what kind of response it was going to get. Now, let me give you an example of how the response went for the video. When it first came out, I had a handful of people who are faithful LDS people attack the video. But what they were doing is they were attacking the thumbnail. They didn't actually watch the episode. And what I found so interesting is a couple came back, actually attacked the video, and one in particular, as I recall, and I think it might have been another too, actually came back and said, you know what, Steve, hey, I want to apologize. I misread this whole thing. See, people don't realize that when even I have one of the biggest critics of the church on my program, I even say it's not to tear down the church or bash it. I never do that, right? I'm not a hater. Hey, it's not my role to defend the church, but I have no intention of attacking it. Which, of course, it's not my job to defend the church, but I will defend it if I feel it's being unfairly maligned, which I do all the time. This is what I find so ironic, is that I get people in the ex-Mormon community who don't like me. I get people in the TBM crowd who do not like me because the ex-Mormons think I'm not hard enough in the church. And then the TBMs think that I am maybe not faithful, which is weird because I'm not going to be necessarily a member of their church, or maybe they feel like I'm an enemy of the church, which is ridiculous. I mean, 450 plus videos, and I have people attack me, and I say, give me one snippet of your evidence that would show that I am malevolent towards the church. That's just a weird attack sometimes. But then, of course, my biggest critics, this is what's so funny, my biggest critics are evangelical apologists who are going after me. They've kind of quieted down because I think they realize that if they mess with me, it may not turn out well for them. Many of them are cowards and bullies, and I have probably spent more time calling out evangelical apologists than anybody. And so I just find it so funny when people attack me. It's just weird when they don't, honestly, they say I've done my research and I know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, they'll give me a very superficial criticism. Let me just say, somebody went to me and said, when I posted something about the gay pastor in one of my Facebook groups. He goes, "Oh, your evangelical critics are sure going to come out." And I said, "Well, yeah, but critic assumes that there's actual critical thinking done on their part, which I don't see a whole lot of. And I don't see a whole lot of it coming from any of my critics, wherever they're coming from, because their attacks are always extraordinarily uninformed, based on opinion, not actual evidence. And when they do provide evidence, it's very superficial. Like, okay, maybe you've watched my channel for the last week and a half, and you think you can form an opinion. We're going on 3 years. We've put out more stuff out there than just about anybody out there, and we are truly the Switzerland of Mormonism, as Dr. Randy Bell calls it. And This is going to be the place that is going to hear all the different voices, and we're going to have all the look. I get slammed so much by ex-Mormons for having Orthodox Latter-day Saints on my program. You shouldn't be platforming them. You shouldn't be doing this. I catch hell in some of the ex-Mormon Reddits sometimes. For the most part, again, still positive. But they don't like when I platform people. Well, when anybody goes and says, "I'm going to program your program, Steve, and tell you who's acceptable to come on your program or not," guess what I'm going to do? I'm just going to keep on having Greg Mattson come on. This is what I'm going to do. This is so funny. I get this criticism that I'm saying, like, "Oh, well, you're trying to." This Sean guy, I think, is the same guy. He's like, you're saying like you're advocating gay stuff in the church or gay marriage and stuff like that. So I'm advocating. So what do? I have on Jacob Hansen and Greg Mattson on my program, which is my most watched video over the last month, talking about mixed messages from the LDS church. I picked two right wingers on who are defending traditional marriage in the church, and yet they seem to think that I have some agenda, that I'm trying to promote gay marriage in the temple. No, I don't. Look, I've said this multiple times, folks. I'm not an activist. I'm just a human being who's demonstrating and modeling how we can have conversations with people that we disagree with groups that we disagree with. I have no hidden agenda whatsoever. It's just so weird. Now, before we get to Will Kritzman, who's going to be speaking at a facility that contains the Mormon temple this Sunday, which is really remarkable when you think about it. I just wanted to bring this out. This is a really cool thing I got in the mail this week. It's just one of those awesome things. So this is allegedly the Adamic language, and this was sent to me by Matthew Gill. And this is the Adamic language, and he says this, and its translation is, "My name is Jeranek, son of Ishna from the house of Ishna." And he writes me a nice little note. If you want to do screen freeze when this is done, you can take a look at what he wrote me. And he did contact me yesterday to make it abundantly clear this is not the pure Adamic language. And actually, I made a point to never say that it was the pure Adamic language, nor did I state anywhere that this was the pure Adamic language. I just say this is merely the Adamic language, because he explained to me this was not the pure Adamic language, that this was Jeranek's language, and the language his father was pure, but it would have been corrupted by Jeranek. And you could argue it would have been further corrupted by Matthew Gill. Now, somebody brought this up to me saying, "Well, why are you talking about the Adamic language?" Well, Joseph Smith is a really fascinating story. And this is why I love to talk about Mormon history and educate people, because maybe not everybody's heard this story. And maybe you have. Tell me. But basically what happened was, let me tell you the story of Black Pete. So Black Pete actually is a black man who had the priesthood early on. So and this is a church historian office, Mark Staker will tell you this. So the Blackhood priesthood, there was under Joseph Smith, basically there wasn't a ban. Okay, just so you make it abundantly clear. So it wasn't like something to be done in the future. He was actually, so we had Black Pete, who spoke in tongues, and this is before Joseph Smith arrived to Kirtland. He actually, Black Pete had his own thing going on there, converted to Mormonism, and they were sending out missionaries, people who were speaking in tongues, and apparently these missionaries came and met Brigham Young, and Brigham Young. He converts, and later on at this time, Joseph Smith starts tamping down on tongue speech in Kirtland. But then, interesting enough, Brigham Young, because of that, Black Pete, apparently, and this is how we believe the story went, when they first meets Joseph Smith, and they started interacting with each other, and at some point, I don't know if it's in a service or what the context was, Brigham Young starts speaking in tongues, and Joseph Smith hears what he says. And he says this: "Brigham, what you spoke was the pure Adamic language." Fascinating stuff. So the person who brought the concept of the pure Adamic language into the Restoration was Joseph Smith. And so that's fascinating. So now we have a claim from another prophet. So, you can say prophet with parentheses, it's up to you. But within the context of Restoration scriptures, it does tell us that they expected there would be other records that would come forth of other civilizations testifying of Jesus Christ. This is making such a claim. Very interesting stuff. And so the person who brought the Adamic language to the table and the concept of a pure Adamic language. And of course, the Adamic language is not something that originated with Joseph Smith. This was an idea that's there's an idea within Judaism and some sects of Christianity. There was an Adamic language, but within the context of the Restoration, literally, actually, it wasn't Joseph Smith that brought the Adamic language into the picture. It was Brigham Young who actually spoke it according to what we are understanding. So it's a fascinating story. So when people criticize me for this, it's like, listen, this is part of the Restoration narrative, this type of claim. You do with it as you want. But it's a claim that's made about the Restoration, about the coming forth of records of other ancient civilizations, the idea that there was an Adamic language, a pure Adamic language, that apparently the Jaredites and other groups were able to retain, post falling of the post of this spreading of the languages and stuff and the scattering of the people at the Tower of Babel. It says that my audio sounds a little static. Thanks, Roman. I don't know why that's happening. Everybody, how's my audio? Is it giving you trouble? Let me know. This is a work in progress. Okay, I'll wait to hear from you. So I find just this idea. So thank you, Matthew Gill, for sending me my own version of the characters document. I think it's really, really cool. All right. So again, I also want to get feedback from everybody. Basically, this will be my second Friday live session. I did 2 live sessions last week, once on a Monday at a spur of the moment, and then last Friday. I think it was clipping when you were a little louder. Okay. So I've done 2 live things now, and both of them got over 1,000 views. And so I would like to know, maybe in the chat here too, if you could tell me, is this something, a lot of people do different live stuff. And what I want to do eventually is switch over to StreamYard. Maybe we'll take some of the quotes from people and put it on the screen like they're able to do that. We're going to make some upgrades. But do you like the idea of me just doing like a Friday night, just rap session where I just kind of turn on the microphone and talk and interact with the audience? Is this something that is of use to you? Or do you want me just to do interviews? Do you want me to pick another night? Is Friday not a good night? I just want to know from people where they come from on this. So this morning, as I alluded to earlier, and by the way, keep my mom in your prayers. She's been under the weather for like 12 days with a really bad cough. Then this morning she wakes up and she takes 2 sips of coffee and she started throwing up. And I went and got I actually went to the pharmacist and asked for advice on what's the help with a upset stomach. And he actually recommended ginger ale. So we got some ginger ale, but she just keep her in your prayers. We might have to get her out to the doctor soon. Many of you know my mom. She did a book review on my program a while back, and maybe I've met her and stuff like that on Zoom calls. Some of you who have interacted with us. And so just keep her in your prayers. So then, of course, I wake up this morning and I get a message from Rebecca Biblioteca saying she's got the flu. Everybody around me's getting sick. Keep me in your prayers. Make sure I've been taking my immunity boosters and everything like that. And so I had William Kritzman of the West End Church come and back onto my program. And it was a really fascinating conversation we had. And I'm going to release it this weekend sometime. So make sure you have your notifications turned on. And Will, basically, they have this large campus in Manhattan, not too far from the Mormon Temple. And the church, their church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and his church, signed a lease agreement that the church is going to lease a large portion of their campus to house 2 wards for at least for the next 3 years, while the Manhattan Temple is going under renovations. Well, this past Sunday, they had an open house with a few hundred people, about 200, 300 people from the 2 wards came by and did an open house. And they got to know each other. And Pastor Will got to, he's been working with the bishops. It's really interesting that he kind of tells us about the negotiating that was going on with the church and the church board. All the negotiating was done with people who flew in from Utah. They talked with them. And then once everything was settled, then they handled everything to the local leadership to kind of, and so he's been working. And so he's learning about the Restoration. He's learning about working with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And they had their first open house this past Sunday. And Pastor Will said it went really well. And there was a lot of what he said, gratitude on behalf of the saints for this to happen. Now, what's so fascinating is that this is a church that has pride flags everywhere. And they made it very clear we're not taking any of the pride flags down. This is going to be a safe space for our congregation. And he goes and details how there are many conservative evangelical and fundamentalist groups that would be that wanted to lease space, and they turned them down. But he thought it was different with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because in his mind, he sees the direction the church is going, and he's very encouraged. This queer pastor is very encouraged the direction that this church is going vis-a-vis women as well as LGBTQ people. And so he feels like this would be a great opportunity to show a church that is gay affirming how it would look if it were done in the context of possibly if, how Christian churches can do it. Let's just leave it at that. Now, and now somebody just said I was being a clickbait with the headline. Well, it's really fascinating because, see, on March 3rd is going to be the last services that are going to be held at the Manhattan Temple. So you have to understand, you have the Manhattan Temple, and you actually have space that's dedicated for the two wards to meet at. Okay. And so this Sunday, Pastor Will is going to be coming there and giving a talk to the congregation at where the temple's located. So I didn't say he's in the temple. He's going to be at the temple facilities there where the wards meet, and it's going to have a queer pastor basically giving a sermon. And I will give a little hint. It's going to be about Lent at a ward. Now, isn't that amazing? I don't know if that would have happened 20, 30 years ago. I don't know. Maybe it would have. But I think it's very fascinating to think that you're going to have a person like that come in and tell their story and tell the story of their church and his faith tradition and talk about the Christian traditions of Lent and Ash Wednesday and of course, how it all kind of leads up to the holiday of Easter, which, of course, is celebrated by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but many of the other aren't. Now, he comes from a church that is more liturgical and is integrated, so it's going to be more follows the same calendar that the Catholic Church, the liturgical calendar that many high church Protestant churches as well the Catholics follow as well. And so he's going to be talking about that, and I think it's going to be really fascinating. By the way, Pastor Will tells me that he gets along greatly with the bishops. He's developed friendships with them, and he's really thoroughly impressed that how the church is run and the people of the church. And he feels that their church can also be it can be a cross-pollination of these two groups. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's an interesting Colleen, yeah, that is amazing. Think about that. An openly queer man this Sunday, who's a pastor of a Christian church, is going to be giving a sermon at the Manhattan Temple complex. That's pretty amazing stuff, folks. And I really feel, is the church putting out feelers here? This is why I think it's still an underreported story. I don't think the people who are critics of the church, nor do I think the faithful members, really realize the implications of a church, two wards meeting in a church building that has pride flags in the hallways, has pride flags in the entrances. They're not going to be taken down. And the church did not object to this. The church is happy to be roommates, as Pastor Will likes to call it, with this LGBTQ affirming church. And again, Pastor Will did not feel comfortable with evangelical churches. Interesting, isn't it? But he felt comfortable with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to be his roommate for at least for the next 3 years. I think that's an interesting story. And I feel like nobody's really, I'm the only one, why is it that it seems like I'm the one that breaks all these different stories? I find it fascinating. I live in a 50-year-old mobile home with my mom in Florida. And I've broken like 3 stories in the restoration in the last 2 weeks, which I'm not, or 3 weeks, whatever it's been. And it's just kind of funny. Like, why is it me, right? Why is it some outsider who's just kind of just some dumb bro, wears his flat brim hat, lives with his mom? Why does he make these connections, find these stories? I just find that just fascinating to me. Like, who would be doing this if it wasn't for me, right? I mean, it's kind of, and I do feel God placed me here. So to do this, I really do. So let's see. I want to let you know that I've been working with my friends over at the Book of Mormon Review. Benjamin's been helping me with stuff on the channel, which is really cool. He's going to be doing some editing. He's built out some shorts for me, so we're going to be doing more shorts. So that's kind of cool. What do you guys think of shorts, by the way? I'm still on the border about that. If they're really useful, I kind of consider them to be like empty calories. They do draw some traffic and they do get views to the channel, so I guess they're okay. But how, in the chat if you want, or comment afterwards, do you watch shorts, and what use do you get out of them? My mom actually watches shorts a lot now, so I guess people do it. That's what the kids want to do, including my 84-year-old mom. So we'll see. Okay, let me think what else before I wrap this up. Oh, by the way, I like your shirt because you give good all your shirts or shorts because you give it good information. I dislike shorts, but I still watch them. Okay, thanks, Roman. I appreciate that. Thanks. See, this is what I love. I love the instant. Yep, shorts. I love the interactions that I get to have. So like a couple times a week, I hop on Facebook Live and I'll do that and I'll get some interactions there. And then I've been experimenting with doing live stuff here on YouTube. And let me think here. What else about the week? Oh, you know what was interesting? Last night I released part 3 of my interview on Mormon stories that I did. It's almost next month will be 2 years ago. Did 5 episodes on Mormon stories. Now, by the way, for those of you who are haters, I want to make one thing abundantly clear. That I've been friends with John, but also we all know that I'm the only, basically, and if there's another one, let me know, the only neutral Mormon podcaster. And I watched this interview. Are you an out gay man? Okay. Short straw viewers to long forms. Donnie Lee Gringo in Brazil. By the way, are you an out gay man? I've heard rumors. Well, they're not rumors. It's true. I've been very open about my sexuality. Ryan King wants to know, will you do more book reviews? You know, that's a great question. Why don't we do the book reviews like we used to? Well, partly because nobody watched them. I only have 2 book reviews that have over 1,000 views. And we would put a lot of work on them. We would do the scripts, we'd do that. So I've done a little bit of shorts where I've talked about books, and I want to do more of that. So I thought I would integrate talking about books in my shorts. I think that there will be an occasional book review. I think Mormon book reviews is branched out to being much more. It's kind of like Canadian Tire, which back in the day just was tire stores, and now it's a one-stop shopping place. It's like the Walmart of Canada. That's kind of MBR, just kind of become its own brand. But either way, I actually hadn't probably watched that part 3 of that interview. What an Evangelical loves about Mormonism, I think might be what it's called. And I watched it because I reposted it on my channel yesterday. I was watching about half of it. I was like, you know, it really surprises me how much it holds up. Like basically the stuff I was saying almost 2 years ago is pretty much in line with what this channel's been all about all along. And so I feel like I've been pretty consistent all along. So anybody who attacks me of having a hidden agenda, being a wolf in sheep's clothing, that I'm actually secretly this evangelical who's doing covert operations and all this kind of stuff. And some guy, he goes to me today and he's telling me, it's so funny. He's like attacking me. And then he said, and saying stuff that isn't true, and then say, well, that's my opinion. Oh, okay. All right. That's your opinion. Okay. So I guess if I insult you, if I tell you it's my opinion, it's okay, right? You know, but he's saying I'm anti-Mormon. He's saying that I'm secretly trying to convert people because he didn't like the fact that I did something with Pastor Jeff. And by the way, I rarely respond to my comments. I just find it so funny that it's obviously somebody who just found me recently, thinks they have me figured out, and now they're going to go on the prowl. And I think it's probably because they don't like Pastor Jeff, is my guess. I don't know. By the way, just so you all know, Pastor Jeff, I'm a long time out gay man, this is Donnie Lee Gringo in Brazil, former Mormon, long time with the Community of Christ. I follow Mormonism from afar. Donnie, have we ever interacted? Because I think I've talked to another gay man in Brazil. Are you aware of the 1980s film The God Makers made by evangelicals? Oh, Donnie Lee, of course. And not only that, I did a book review on The God Makers. Oh, and boy. Oh, did I have fun with that one. Yeah, no, I gave that one a really good, nice review. The God Makers is, especially the God Makers cartoon, is spiritual pornography. It's terrible. I think evangelicals that use even the arguments from the God Makers videos don't know what they're doing. I remember talking to John DeLynn one time when we were doing a show, and he had talked about how, and then when he was on his mission, I think it was in the 80s in Katy, Texas. I think he was on his mission somewhere. Oh, no, he lived in Katy, Texas. That the Baptist Church was doing these, all these churches in the 1980s, and especially in the evangelical world, were doing these showings of the God Makers. And actually, that was one of my introductions to Mormonism myself, because I actually, as a young boy, watched parts of the God Makers on Channel 38 in Chicago, one of the largest Christian television stations in America, and they made a big to-do about the God Makers. So this was in a Chicago market, and they were advertising this thing on the loop. They were showing the God Makers cartoon on a loop on the channel pre-internet. So I saw the cartoon on television before it ever got on the internet. So that cartoon is seared into my memory, the God Makers cartoon. So that played a big role, part of my journey, in that it has been. And so, yeah, the God Makers cartoon, and I it's really bad. And basically, that's if evangelicals know anything about Mormonism, it's usually going to be stuff that they'd be talking about from the God Makers books and the God Makers cartoons, and it's very unfortunate. It's garbage. And even the Tanners, Gerald and Sandra Tanner, have renounced the author and especially his later works. And by the way, yeah, friends with Sandra Tanner. I've been to her house. I've spent time with her, had dinner with her. So I've hung out with some of the biggest critics of Mormonism, but I also have engaged and had on multiple times very faithful people like Jonathan Neville, and I've had on Rob Meldrum a couple times. I've had Richard Bushman on twice. You name it, the scholar Don Bradley, who you name, Dan Vogel, you name them, they've probably been on my program or they're coming on, or I've talked to them. And we're going to continue these conversations. And I think it just makes for really interesting internet or YouTube. Let's see here. Let me make sure. Are you aware of the? Yeah, I was with the Affirmation in the 1980s, battling with those guys. Yep. Are you aware of the ex-Mormon fellow in Brazil who has published a sealed book from the golden plates from Angel Morona? Yes, that's Mauricio Berger. You might want to reach out to this group. So I will tell you that there is actually a member of the first presidency of that group lives in Miami, and I do have a connection, and we are doing some initial talks. There's a claim that the sealed portion has been translated by a gentleman by Mauricio Berger. Is it Berger or Berger? Yeah. And of course, Rick Bennett of, oh, by the way, my critics who say I bring on people and I talk about things like this. What do you say about Rick Bennett with Gospel Tangents? He does the same thing. Is he a wolf in sheep's clothing? Is he trying to undermine the Mormon church? But he had John Pratt on, and he served in the first presidency under Mauricio as well. I don't know if I would have Mauricio on the program, but I'll consider having this gentleman on who's a member of the first presidency, because I have a mutual friend that vouches for this person. And so, yeah, I'm basically, folks, I've gone deep in the weeds. This guy, Matthew Gill, I knew about him in 2008. He started the church in 2006. And this guy has a dozen members in his church. So when I say I studied Mormonism, I studied it. Are there people out there that know more about it than I do? Yeah, there are. But I'm one of those people that, one, was nominated to serve on a board of directors of one of the most prestigious Mormon scholarly organizations. And I'm not a scholar. I actually turned down the nomination because of my time constraints. I've been invited to be the keynote speaker at the Book of Mormon Expo Thursday night, April 18th. I mean, think about that. And so anybody who wants to challenge my credentials, all I need to do is just say, go and watch, just go to my channel and just look at the lineup. Look at all the people I talked to. You'd be shocked. You'd be surprised. And I taught ever since the very beginning. The first guest I ever had was Rick Bennett of Gospel Tensions. Second guest I had on was Matt Harris. I mean, come on. And then not long after that, John Hamer, and then Richard Bushman, and then Sandra Tanner. This is in the first few months of my channel. Okay. So I've been talking to everybody for a very, very, very long time. And so let me just pull up one thing here. Let's see here. I'm sorry. This makes for bad television, I know. Well, okay, let me just do this. Well, either way, don't forget that I will be coming out to Utah the week, probably about April 16th or 17th. Probably going to have a meetup on the 17th of April. The 18th of April, I'll be speaking at the Mountain American Expo Center, the largest convention center in the state of Utah. And I'll be giving what you could say the Thursday night opening keynote speech at 7 o'clock. So it's the prime time slot. And make sure you go to bookofmormonevidences.org, I believe, or just type in Book of Mormon Evidence. Their website's the first to come up. And you can buy tickets. The early bird special ends on March 15th. Okay, sounds great. Yeah, Donnie Lee, Mauricio Group had put a lot of photos and videos online of the golden plates, but sadly no videos of Moroni, although Mauricio told me he has that too. Yeah, so this old Mauricio Burger guy, I don't know, because one of the problems is that one of the so-called inscriptions on the plates was a Hoffman forgery. And that really kind of caused a lot of people to dismiss that. It was the Hoffman forgery of the Anthon transcript that he made. That made it into that version of the Book of Mormon. And so I think something was lost in translation there, and Mauricio didn't realize that, and that kind of exposed him. That's just how I see it. I will tell you, let me tell you the implications of that. It devastated churches. Again, you probably don't know these stories, but I'm going to tell them because, again, I talked to all the voices in the registration. And I say this, I don't mean that to say like I'm smarter than you. I don't. But I'm saying this to my critics who think they know me. No, you don't. So let me tell you what happened was there were a lot of people, part of the independent restoration branches movement, also some groups tied in with one of the main publisher out there, that they bought into the idea that was sealed, that sealed portion, and that Mauricio was legit. It literally tore families apart, tore churches apart. Congregations that had hundreds of people now have been destroyed and dwindled. So it caused a lot of churches to get hurt. I mean, I had an apostle tell me, he said, the Mauricio Berger devastated many churches, devastated our community, really. And there's still people there that believe it. Apparently, they were actually making inroads in the temple lot, that at some point there was a possibility that they would have actually taken over the temple lot. So, there are several LDS folks from Missouri with Mauricio, and some of them stay. But I'm telling you, once that caused devastation in Independence, Missouri, and there's still, and again, it could have, I have a feeling that the Anthon transcript forgery wasn't found in the writings of Mauricio, that they may have actually been able to take over the temple lot. That's kind of the momentum that they had going. By the way, I have interacted with people from the temple lot, and who is the temple lot, by the way? Oh, they actually own the property in Independence, Missouri, where the temple is to be built. When that's Zion, that's where Jesus is going to return to. And so, apparently, within restoration theology, and the temple lot is a church. I think it has a few thousand members. Maybe, I think last time I checked, there's about 2,500 members. The vast majority of them are based in Independence. They may have more members, maybe, but most of them live in Africa. It's one of those things where a lot of these churches will have roughly around 10,000 members, and 8,000 of them are in Africa. So it's really hard to keep track of those numbers. But yeah, that's just kind of interesting. It's an interesting story. So when people go to me and say, "Oh, well, you talk about the obscure stuff and the fringy stuff," and they get on me about that, I'm like, "Yeah, that's the fringy stuff is always the interesting thing." But also remember that the beginning of Mormonism was a fringy thing, right? It was viewed as fringy. As a matter of fact, it's still viewed by fringy by many Americans and most evangelicals. They kind of look at it as a fringy thing. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the evangelical community and the restoration talking to each other. But I'm also trying to get the restoration to talk to each other, because the restoration has been splintered, and it's unfortunate. But you have hundreds and hundreds of sects. I got 2 volumes of Steve Shields' book detailing all the different expressions and sects and splinters and groups within the restoration. And it's real. So I talk to everybody. That's why anybody who thinks that I will go really obscure. I'll go super. I can go more obscure than I've even done before, because this is how deep in the weeds I get. I'm genuinely fascinated by the topic. Genuinely. Okay, so Mauricio and group are building a new Zionic community in southern Brazil, hoping to gather for the end times. See, so there's Mauricio. Who knows what does that group look like 50 years from now? I don't know. I just find it really interesting. Okay, I'll quit drinking the water. It's probably irritating to people. So tell me, folks. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say, I'm going to go a couple more minutes. If there's anybody that's ever wanted to donate to the channel in the super chat, I did get $10 once, so I'm really happy. Again, I've only done this a couple times. If you'd like to make a donation and get a shout out from me, I'll gladly give you a shout out. Again, folks, I would be making more money flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, considering the time and the energy that I put into this. The amount of money that I get back is ridiculously small. So anybody who thinks I'm doing this for the money, I'm doing it for the fame, I'm doing it for any number of things. No, I'm doing this because I love the subject and I love the people of the restoration. And I really feel that it just bugs me when you have people do these drive-by posts, obviously ill-informed, don't know what they're talking about. And it's just frustrating to me because it's like, listen, I literally spent years and years and years of my life, and I've studied all this stuff. And so when I have people attack me who obviously don't know anything about me, it's just so ridiculous. I would never criticize somebody if I didn't do my research. Oh, Rebecca Bibliotheca is in the house. The LDS congregation meets in the temple building and the pastor is speaking to the ward there. Yeah, that's really simple. So yeah, there's going to be a queer pastor at the temple complex this Sunday in Manhattan, New York, giving a sermon to a ward this Sunday morning. That's the headline. That's the story. Rebecca, I hope you're doing better. Rebecca, are you feeling better? Because I told everybody you've been under the weather. So I'm glad to see that you're talking. Maybe you don't have the volume on. But Rebecca, I hope you get well. Everybody keep Rebecca in your thoughts and prayers. Oh, and the other thing, oh my gosh, I got to talk about one more thing. And again, if you want to give a donation, I'll give you a shout out in the super chats. I interviewed my pastor this week along with my co-host Summer Rain. And I have to tell you, it was dynamic. It was a blast. My pastor just blew things up in the evangelical world. See, we air everybody's dirty laundry, including the evangelical world. I've always done that. And so, not the first gay man to speak in a ward, but maybe the first out gay Protestant pastor to do so. That's the whole point. Thanks, Donnie Lee. Yeah, that's the whole point. A gay Protestant pastor is going to talk about Lent at a ward that's adjacent to a Mormon temple this Sunday morning. That's the headline. That's pretty amazing stuff. So I had this great interview with my pastor, and it's going to be aired next week. And Summer Rain loved it. And I'll tell you what, Summer, she really upped her game in this second interview. She did fine in the first one, but boy, she grabbed the bull by the horns. She started asking questions. She started doing follow-ups. And at one point, my pastor goes and said, "Hey, Steve, stay quiet. Summer and I are having a moment here. We're having a good conversation." Don't interrupt, something like that. They done hijacked my podcast. So I'm looking forward for you all to meet my pastor. Him and I share a lot of the same values. He's a really cool dude. And I want to thank everybody. I'm just going to hop on every Friday. I'm going to do this one more Friday. I want to see what kind of responses. For those of you who are not watching this live, I want your comments. I want to read your comments. Tell me what you think. Will you make Friday nights an appointment period of time to hop on at 6 o'clock Mountain Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and just chat with me and just let me riff? Is this something you would do? Would you take time for this? And if it's going to be a waste of time, you let me know that too. And again, we'll refine it. I want to get your feedback from the audience so that then they can tell me maybe improvements that I can make. I'm always open to constructive, informed criticism. Remember, constructive, informed criticism. I will always respect that, okay? And I don't, like I said earlier, when this person said, "Oh, your evangelical critics are really going to go after you," I was like, well, the critics assume they did critical thinking, and I don't see a whole lot of critical thinking coming from the evangelical critics that go after thing. Colleen, looking forward to seeing the interview. Love Summer. Thanks for all you do. Probably the most Christ-like individual I've encountered on YouTube. Sincerely, an active LDS member. Well, RFERT27. Thank you. Thank you. That really means a lot, And I hear from. So this is a week in review Q&A, kind of, Roman. Yeah, it's going to be evolving. Sometimes I'll this one I'm also previewing something like an episode, that I'll be releasing this weekend. So it will be kind of just a mishmash. Again, I'm a very impromptu kind of guy. I literally, these are my notes that this is my preparation for this, and maybe it shows. But this is what I want to do, is just kind of be able to turn on the camera and start talking to the audience, interact with you. That's why I like the chat. And you can rewatch this maybe later today or tomorrow, and you can follow the chat along as you're watching the video too. You can always turn that option on, but I try to read them off so you don't have to do that. And then leave me your comments. Just tell me what you think. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I can't really think of anything else I wanted to talk about. But yeah, so let's try one more Friday night next week. Make sure you have your notifications turned on for new stuff that comes out. I'm not sure what time exactly tomorrow we're going to be dropping that episode, so make sure your notifications are turned on. I think Reverend Will is a really cool dude, and I think it's great that he's returning to the program. I see Rebecca, maybe she hopped in the chat, and she's a super busy person. I'm surprised she even hopped in the beginning of it. But that's glad to see she's at least able to type, so that's a good sign. And keep my mom in your prayers. She has been ill, and she's 84, so you gotta just be careful. You can't just not think that it's not serious, right? I think she's fine. I think she's going to be recovering, but at that age, there's no guarantees. Donnie, well, this old gay ex-Mormon Community of Christ elder appreciates your work. And you know what I appreciate? The Community of Christ. I was the one that broke this news story that you guys were going to get a new prophet. Not only that, but a year and a half ago, with my conversation with Evan Charlie, we actually gave, we actually talked about how it would be the person who ended up being as a possible candidate, replacement, to have a female. So this has been on the cutting edge of breaking news from all the different groups of the Restoration, whether it's the Community of Christ, whether it's the Church of Jesus Christ, whether it's the Temple Lot, whether you name it, it's all there. In Brazil, Donnie Lee in Brazil. I'm sad Evan has left us. Okay, I didn't know if that was official. Donnie, is that did Evan Charlie really leave the Community of Christ? I'll have to get in touch with her. Okay, thanks for sharing that. I wonder why I haven't heard from her. I was gonna, because we're gonna have it is official. Yeah, she put it line. Okay, I'm gonna reach out. Sometimes stories I do miss. I will reach out to Evan. Yeah, and Evan was probably one of the most progressive members of that church, in a very progressive church. So we'll see where this all goes. It actually was a member of John Hamer's congregation, online congregation as well. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thank you, everybody. I do appreciate the kind words, especially from people from the Restoration. It's also nice to hear from evangelicals who get me and don't hate me. That's always a breath of fresh air. And I have found a church of evangelicals and a pastor that get me as well. And it's really important that, in my journey, that I was isolated and I'd cut myself off from much of my family and friends, and lived a very sad and alone life for a very long time, and a lot of anger and bitterness. It was really the only thing that was really keeping me alive at the time was my study and appreciation of Mormonism. So that's why I say Mormonism saved my life. I ain't going to hate on it. I'm not necessarily going to defend everything about it, but I ain't going to attack it. And when it is unfairly maligned and attacked, I'm going to stand up for it. And of course, I get unfairly maligned and attacked all the time myself. So I know the feeling. Okay, don't forget our merch store, MormonBookReviews.com, if you'd like to get hats or mouse pads, you name it. We have a lot of stuff in our merch store. We do have, in the description, I do have places for those of you who would like to financially support the channel. I want to thank those of you who do support me on Patreon and donate on Venmo and PayPal, and couldn't do it without you. Also, the rad revenue on YouTube continues to increase, so that's also very helpful. And I do have people paying my trips to go out to Utah. Also, I'm probably going to be going out to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to attend the General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ. That's in the first weekend, I think, in April, and then first or second weekend. Then after that, I'm hopping out to Utah, and then maybe on Saturday the 19th, the 20th. Either way, Saturday the 20th, I might be in Independence, Missouri, speak at the third in a row Book of Mormon rally, where we have all the different Restoration branches come together and talk about the Book of Mormon and have a rally about it, which is always so exciting. Okay, this is a little rambly today. Oh my gosh, Donnie Lee, thank you. I got a super chat, $4.99. Okay, see, you get the shout out. That works. See, this how it works, folks. This is how I talk to you. This is how I communicate to you. And there's so many people that I will never meet. And I mean, I've got over 7,000 subscribers, and we're closing in on 1 million views. I mean, we'll hit 1 million views in very shortly. I mean, I know that there's people I'll never meet that watch me every episode, feel like they know me. And then when I do get out to Utah, people will go and say, yeah, I saw you, but they didn't come and say hi. So if you see me, heck, I even had somebody here at a Culver's locally in Florida tell me, they comment on one of my videos saying, I saw you at Culver's. And it was so weird because when I was at that Culver's, I was sitting there like, man, I think there's somebody here that knows me. And then like a few weeks later, I find out, yeah, I was at Culver's and I saw you. It's like, it was a weird, eerie thing. Like, I don't know if that's a spiritual thing. Perhaps if it's something in our subconscious, it picks up. But literally, I was there like somebody knows me. So yeah, so that happened. So I want to tell you, if you see me in public, don't be afraid to say hi, and tell me what you think of the channel. Tell me what you think about me, and maybe your favorite episodes and all that kind of stuff, because it really does give me a lot of energy, and to know that. And you know what, folks, that 90% of what MBR does is off camera, behind the record, off the record. I do Zoom calls with people all the time. I talk to people in the restoration. I talk to people in the news organizations. I talk to the press. I have sources, connections throughout the world, working all different angles and stories. And Craig Sanderson, $10. Oh my gosh, I have made $14.99 in 48 minutes. My gosh. Well, maybe I should just keep the camera on. We'll make this like a marathon. You know what we'll do like a telethon, like the Christian televangelist did. That's what we're gonna do. We'll make this a telethon. Yeah, can you imagine if it like became that? Oh my gosh, that'd be crazy. Yeah, and by the way, where I live in Florida, literally the community I live in is televangelist central. I mean, Benny Hinn got his start here, or Roberts used to come here all the time. You name it, just about every single televangelist has ever been big in the last 50 years has come through here, and many got their starts here. I've been offered jobs from televangelists. My sister worked for a Christian television station in Chicago, the one that aired the Godmakers. I was offered jobs from televangelists. We knew all the megachurch pastors in the Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana area. So, like, I know that world, and I know how the sausage is made. And so that's just my story. And I just want to, again, thank you, Donnie Lee, for the donation. Thank you, Craig Sanderson, for the donation. It really does mean a lot to me. This is small potatoes, right? This channel is a small little channel. But man, when somebody gives me $5, $10, it's so awesome. And I tell people, it's like, man, you got these big podcasters that people, though, thousands of people give $5, $10 to these people. And I'm like, do you know how much bigger of an impact it makes when you're doing it for this channel? I mean, that's each. Oh, Colleen, we raised $10. My goodness. So let's celebrate their first super on a live stream. It's telling me. Okay, so it's giving me props. Colleen, thank you so much. Craig, thank you so much. So we have now raised $24.99. Oh my gosh. Wow. This really means a lot to me. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I love all of you. I appreciate it. I don't know. Should I jump off? Maybe somebody else is going to make a donation. Maybe I should do the Oral Roberts one, where Oral Roberts said, if I don't raise the money for this hospital, God's going to strike me dead. How much money would I raise? Oh, Lamoni, $2. Thank you, Stephen. Bill, I promise you, if I ever do that, then I have jumped the shark. Okay, I will never say that God's going to take me like Oral Roberts said. By the way, it was so funny because shortly after Oral Roberts went on television saying God was going to take his life, he comes over here to dedicate the training center building, and we had media from all over the place in the church filming him. I mean, this is the crazy world. I mean, this is the crazy world that I grew up in, man. So love you too. Thank you, Colleen. And so when evangelicals go after some of the weird stuff of Mormonism or all that, I'm like, you know what? We really shouldn't judge. Let's be fair. There's weird stuff in all religion. There just is. And there's extravagant claims made in all religions. Let's all have epistemological humility, okay? We all see through a glass darkly. You think you got me figured out? You probably don't. Based on the criticisms I get from all the different groups. It's like, it's so stupid. Then it's like, get a life. Get out from behind your keyboard. Take a walk. Make friends. Build a community. And if you don't like my channel, start your own channel. That's part of the reason I started my channel in the first place. Was I was like, man, I watch these shows and these hosts are not asking the follow-up questions that I would ask. So I said, well, I better start my own channel and book those same guests and put them on my program. So that was kind of the whole impetus. This channel is really made for the audience of one. It's made for me. I just get to talk to all the people I want to talk to, including Matthew Gill, who sent me this lovely characters document of the Adamic language and the translation. That's cool. That's really awesome. He took the time to send that to me. That's a human connection I'm having with a fellow image bearer. So anybody who goes and criticizes me for being a human being who loves other human beings, who loves other fellow image bearers, I'm going to push back on you. We live in a world that's just in many ways falling apart. And it's nasty and it's cruel. And it's unfair. And you're going to take your time. Freaking this Presbyterian pastor last December goes after me, based in Salt Lake City, asking me a stupid asinine question. Spent 20 plus years in that city trying to save Mormons and can only come up with a Manchian either or question. And that's his whole worldview. I feel sorry for the guy. And I feel sorry for people that think that they can just go and attack people and call them names and make accusations against them without any knowledge except some superficial. Maybe they read a thumbnail. Maybe they were mad that I had a certain guest on my program. And I hear that. That's in the ex-Mormon community too. I have had my haters in the ex-Mormon community too. I'm not saying my community is better. I'm not saying your community is better. I'm not saying I'm all bad, you're all bad. I'm saying we're all human beings. We're on this rock, hurtling through space. And we don't really know. And then I'm just some bro who lives with his mom in a mobile home park, who loves Mormonism, who loves Mormon history, in many ways appreciates and loves Joseph Smith, actually feels a kinship with him in some ways. And some people hate that I say that. That's fine. But the reality is I do feel like I share a lot in common with him. And I'm a flawed human being. Make it very clear. I'm a very flawed person. I'm not perfect. I can have a temper. I can be nasty. People think I'm this nice guy. I have an inner Christopher Hitchens. I can cut people down and make them feel very small. I'm capable of that. I was involved in politics and I was nasty. I could be a nasty political street fighter, both verbally and just in the stuff that I would do. But that's how it was in the political scene. Okay. And I was doing this when I was in my early 20s. I mean, literally was running a congressional campaign before I was age 21, and then ran for county commissioner in the second largest county in the state of Indiana, got endorsed by the major paper, led the Republican ticket. And I was doing this, and I'm looking at these 22 and 23-year-olds now. I'm like, man, I was running for office when I was their age and running campaigns. I'm like, they're just kids. I don't know. I was just a weirdo. I'm a weirdo. I'm a very unique weirdo. Okay. I'm a unicorn. I fully admit that. And so I had fun today. This went a little longer. Partly because people started donating, and that really kind of gives you motivation, right? A little bit. I don't know. But again, not doing this for the money. And honestly, the critics, I just want to make one thing very clear. I don't think about you. The only time I even think about you is when I'm just talking about something that they wrote or attacked me with. You don't affect me at all. I don't think about you in any way, shape, or form. I think most of the critics that go after me are extraordinarily superficial, have their opinions, but they're not informed. Now, if you have an informed opinion and an informed criticism of me, fair enough. I'll even acknowledge it. But I have not seen a legitimate, fair, well thought of, researched criticism thrown at me yet. Not once. And these are so-called people who are affiliated with a group that has research in their name based in Mormon in Utah. And they claim to be Christian researchers of Mormonism. And their research sucks. Sorry. I said it. It's not really good. I'm sorry. Probably shouldn't use that word. Forgive me. But it's not good. And they attack me, not knowing anything about me. They think they got me figured out. They don't. I get called names. I get accusations. People tell me I'm secretly working for the church. then I get some people saying, no, you're secretly an evangelical who's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm like, come on, stop with the conspiracy theories, stop with the opinions, and let's stick with the facts. Look at the information that's out there. And if you take my quotes out of context, yeah, you could weave a narrative about me that could make me seem like a right-wing firebrand or a left-wing progressive. You could easily do it. But again, your bias would be showing. Look, I had somebody who was an ex-Mormon take a clip of me and John DeLynn on Mormon Stories on my channel. Actually, it was on my video, basically making it look like we were attacking atheists. This was done by an ex-Mormon, that we were attacking atheists. Totally took everything out of context. The whole preface was, I'm a pro-atheist evangelical. And I gave some mild critiques of some atheists. And this person made it out like I was an anti-atheist, posted it in the atheist group. I confronted this person about it. And I thought we buried the hatchet, but I don't know. He's back at it again. I just think it's unfair. Be fair. Be fair in your criticisms. Okay, Donnie, Craig, Colleen, and Lamoni, thank you so much for everything. And yeah, Colleen, haters are going to hate. Remember, love your enemies. Love your enemies. Turn the other cheek. Pray for those who despitefully use you. Follow the Savior, and all will be well. And again, I don't hate anybody. I love you all. I think you're all awesome because you know why I love you? Because you're a fellow image bearer. You're one of God's children. And let's remember that. So links in the description for those of you who'd like to support the channel. That'd be great. You can also do super chats in the comments, even when I'm not live. And I will definitely say a thank you there too. Again, not doing this sort of fundraising. It just kind of organically happened tonight, which is kind of cool. And just remember, the most important thing is this. All the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews. Have a great weekend.